You have remixed a couple of projects in Framer and you got away with a free website without being caught. Okay, it's not a crime to remix a project in Framer, but on a more serious note, you have never thought about starting a project from a blank canvas. This video is the only chance to snap out from that lazy designing lifestyle, because today you and me we are going to be designing a portfolio site from a blank canvas. If you're a beginner or just hearing about Framer for the first time and you would like to know more, stick around to this video because it's beginner friendly. I'll be walking you through all the steps and basics you really need to know when starting out in using Framer as a design tool. Without further ado, let me introduce myself. I'm Praise the New Way. You're welcome to my channel and let's get started. Oh, I intentionally forgot to mention there will be a remix link in the description to follow along in case you miss your step in the course of this tutorial. But in case your step is not missing in any way, you shouldn't be looking at that remix link, because I really want to help you in snapping out of that lazy designing lifestyle and design something fascinating from scratch, just like what we are going to be creating in this video. So without further ado again, let's continue in this tutorial.
Hi guys, so I didn't really talk about what Framer is when I was starting out in the intro. For beginners or for those that don't know what Framer is for the very first time seeing this video, Framer is an application just like Figma that you can design, but the only thing that separates Framer from Figma is the ability to publish sites right inside of the application. So this is what Framer looks like. So if you don't have an account, you can head on to framer.com and you will see this place start for free. It takes less than a minute to create a free account and you'll be on the same page that I am. Though this is inside the project, but if I should go to the home page, you will see something like this. Then you create a new project. So this is a project we are on. Once you create a new project, this is what you'll be seeing right inside the application. A quick one, I'll be doing a rundown of everything you're seeing here. I'll try my best to explain some things down to the basis. So if you are coming from a Figma perspective, this interface shouldn't be looking different in your eye because it looks exactly almost the same as Figma, just little changes here and there. On my left hand is where you have your layers, pages and assets. Okay, this is really explainable. Layers are where your design element falls under. Then your assets are reusable elements, components that you can use when starting out in your project. Then as for pages is the number of, how will I put this now, is the number of designs that you cover, because we don't just have one design screen whenever we are designing. We might have more than 4 pages in a particular design project. Take this portfolio website for example. Let me move right here to the main file. If I should come down here, you will see 3 pages right here. These are different designs under one project. So if I should go down this tutorial right here, you will see another type or another phase of this design. Same thing applies to this blog right here. Is just a design page under a main project. Okay, that is it for pages. Moving to this top right here, you will see these are tools that we use in designing. This place I can insert a project like a template, let me just say that, because in Framer I think they really had the beginners in mind, because I wonder why a design application will have a template that guides you through your design project. So if I should start up a project and I don't want to start from scratch, I will just have to come over to this insert. Let me just add this page to show you guys what I mean. Okay, this is it right here. If I don't want to design from scratch or from a blank canvas, I can just come here and insert the type of template I want to use. Like it's already giving you a structure or like an inspiration to your project that you want to start. So let me just go ahead to cancel this right here. The other things, same thing applies. All this down here are templates you can use on your page. There are so many different resources right here you can use right inside of Framer. Moving over to this place is where you can add your frame, rows, columns, grid, images, videos and so on. The truth about this is that I hardly make use of all these elements right here, because whenever I'm designing I just like using shortcuts, because if I want to bring out a frame, all I have to do is just to press F on my keyboard and there goes a frame. So let me just cancel this right here. Here's where you can apply your text. The shortcut for it is T on any design application. Over here is where you have your CMS. CMS means Content Managing System. I might not really go more in depth in this, or can come in maybe in another tutorial. But CMS, just think of CMS like a content library where you can store informations without even touching your canvas. I know this might sound a little confusing because I'm not going to be going in that aspect in this tutorial, so I'll just leave this aspect for another tutorial. But just know that CMS means content management system. It helps you store reusable data for your site. The last element right here is where you have your plugins. We already know what plugins are. They can help us achieve different type of tasks whenever we are designing on our design board. Okay, that's it for plugins, and I was able to explain everything that you need to know on this left hand side. Moving over to this right hand side, I don't know why I'm interchanging right and left. Moving over to this right hand side is where you have your properties panel. I'm not really going to be talking much on this because this is where we are going to be focusing in this course, because there's no how we will design on this board without interacting with this right hand side. So I'll be explaining everything within the course of this tutorial. Okay, this is the portfolio site we are going to be designing in this course. Everything looks clean and nice, and I know you might be having a lot of questions to ask me, but what I would just say is take a chill pill because everything is going to be answered right in this same video. Okay, let me preview this project so you can see for yourself what you'll be able to achieve by the end of this video. So this is it right here. Everything moved in nicely. You can see for yourself that this design is quite unique and simple. On this left hand side, I don't know if you are noticing it though, but you will see that this text is kind of giving this refreshing effect. When I mean it's very easy to do this kind of thing inside Framer without even writing a single line of code. I mean it's really easy to do. So you'll be learning all this right here in this same tutorial. Okay, this is a hover text effect going on right here. Moving down, you will see this cycle text effect that keep popping up new text to the screen. Same thing applies to these hover images that is going on. This portfolio goes on and on and on. The only thing we are going to be focusing on this tutorial is just this two section right here. But if you feel I should do a full video of how I was able to design and achieve everything right here, let me know in the comment section by dropping full tutorial. Then I will consider that to make another video specifically for everything about this portfolio site. Okay, that's it for the intro, and it's time for us to go into the main deal, which is designing our portfolio site. The first thing I like doing before starting out any design project is to set my breakpoints. Okay, let me give a quick explanation of what breakpoints are.
As we all know, designs are viewed from different devices because the way design would be on my mobile phone is not the same way to be on a desktop or a tablet application. So if we're to create a design just like this one we'll be designing this course into different screens, Breakpoint is the way out, and Framer has made it so easy for us to use Breakpoint.
To set breakpoint on this canvas, we just have to go to this plus where we have this plus right here and click the plus. Then we have two options here to add a breakpoint to a tablet or a phone. We'll be going for that of tablet first, then click the tablet, then we select that for the phone. So we have selected our 3 breakpoints for this design we are going to be creating. It's time for us to start designing, but before we jump into that, there are some things I really need to tell you if you're a beginner watching this video. But first off, we are using a blank canvas. You head on to your properties menu, choose the dark color, let's just raise it down like this, and everything nicely adapts to the other breakpoint. It's time for us to start adding our text. But before we do that, like I said, there are things I really need to tell you, because if I don't tell you this, you might miss your step along the way. It's sure to say that. But if you're not a beginner or you want to just jump right into the part where we'll start designing, you can skip this section, but not for beginners. Before we start designing our canvas, we have to structure this page so that it will be responsive. And the only way we can do that is through using stack. So what is a stack?
A stack in Framer is simply a layout that helps us organize our content or our element in a more structured way. If you are coming from a Figma perspective, think of stack like an auto layout. So anything you think an auto layout can do, arranging of layers, helping us organize our content within the frame, that's the same thing a stack can do, but in a more advanced way.
To know the difference between a frame and a stack, let's hit F on our keyboard and draw out a frame. So F on your keyboard and draw out a frame. So this one is an ordinary frame. And let me copy this again
I will go to my layout and click this plus. This layout automatically turns it to stack. So how do we differentiate between a stack and a frame? Hit F on your keyboard again, and I'm going to draw in another frame inside this our frame, and I'll copy that and paste it on the stack. So how do we differentiate between a frame and a stack? It's through their behaviors, and this is what I mean. On this frame, on the primary frame inside a frame, we have the ability to move it anywhere on the parent frame, and everything is going to nicely adopt. If you check your properties menu, we have access to these resizing options. In this case, this primary frame here is set to absolute, meaning that you can shift it anywhere on the frame and everything is going to nicely adopt. We don't have any problem with that. But let's check again. If you check the resizing option of this frame, you will see we're only limited to just one resizing option, while others here relative, we can't click it. Same thing for fix and sticky. If you choose to change this resizing option from maybe absolute to relative, it's not going to allow us to do that. The reason is because we only have that access through a stack. Now let me show you what a stack can do. If I should select the primary element inside this frame and I decide to shift it to maybe the left hand side, what do you notice? The moment I leave my trackpad, everything returns back to the same position that it was before. Do you understand where I'm aiming at? Because it's simply telling us that the behavior of the primary frame is dependent on the master frame, which is the main stack. So whatever behavior that the primary frame is going to take is going to be controlled by the main stack. Let's just say in this case, let's just say it's a secondary stack. Let's take a little tour on this stack section and see what we can do with stack. Let's just assume that we are designing and we want this frame, this primary frame right here, to fill the width of our stack. How do we make use of that? It's very easy. So head on to the width and you see set to fixed because it's in one position. Like we said, let's just decide we want it to fill the width of the stack. We can simply come down to the width menu and scroll down. You will see fill width. We can just put fill and everything nicely adopt. Do you remember when I first said for us to create a responsive design, we have to first set a stack? This is where the ideology came from. Let's just assume that we are done designing and want to scale this site into Breakpoint. If we should reduce the width of this our frame, what do you notice? The width of the parent frame nicely adopts to the width of the parent stack. So what do you notice? That this can help us in a long way in creating a responsive design. Let me quickly show you other features a stack can do. Same thing applies to the height. We can also set it to fill height and it's going to fill the height of the stack. Let's just decide, okay, we want to introduce another frame inside the stack. We can just go ahead to hit Ctrl D. The spacing system or the direction of these two frames is dependent on the main stack. So I'm going to be selecting the main stack right here. Head down to your properties menu and you see here that it's set to horizontal. That is why these two frames that we duplicated are set to a horizontal positioning. Let's just say, okay, we want the direction to be vertical. We can just come here and change it to vertical. You see everything nicely adopt well without us even coming to the board to tweak things around. We can also change the gap between these two frames. Let's just say we want it a little bit wider. We can do that on the stack menu. Same thing for the padding. If we want breathing space within the element, we can just flip this around and you see that there's even spaces around these frames. We can also give a detailed padding system between these frames. Let's just decide we don't want spacing at the top. We can just hit that and hit enter and you see everything nicely adopt. If we decide to duplicate this frame again, Ctrl D on your keyboard, you will see that it maintains a perfect spacing system based on what the main stack set it to be. So this is how we can effectively make use of a stack to create a responsive design. This does not only apply to shapes only. We can also set a text to a stack and it's going to nicely adopt to our frame. Let's take that example. We can head on to today's website, this lorem ipsum, I don't know if I pronounced that right, and copy this large text that we have right here. So Ctrl C. Then we are going to select a frame, F on your keyboard, and let's just draw something small like this. Since it's a white text, let's change the frame to a dark shade, something like this. Then we are going to slot in, let's just copy this and paste it in the frame. Let's assume that this is a text on our website and we want to scale this our website down into Breakpoint. And if we do that, let's just say we scale this down, what do you notice? The text inside the frame is not responsive. And what did I tell you guys? That for you to make a responsive website, we have to bring in a stack. So let's just cancel this, set this frame to stack.
To change this frame into a stack, we go on to this our properties menu here with this layout and click the plus. But in case if you want to skip the long process of always going to your properties side to look for your stack, the shortcut for it on your keyboard is Alt Control Enter, and it automatically sets a stack. So let's just do this in manual way. Let's resize this again to see if it's going to give us that responsiveness that we're looking for. But what do you notice? Nothing has really changed. So how do we fix this issue? If you remember on this our initial example, we had to set the primary frame to fill width so you can fill the width of the stack. So if you have been following all along, you will notice that there was an issue here that we did not do, which was setting this text to fill width. So let me just quickly cancel this and return it back to the normal position around here. So I'll be selecting this text. Heading on to the width panel, I will change the width of the text to fill width and not fixed. So in this way, if we scale down this frame, you will see that everything nicely adapts to the width of the frame. We can also choose to put a spacing system between the two sides of this text and padding surfaces up. So we just come to padding and increase the padding. Everything now is looking so responsive and fine. So this is how you can effectively make use of a stack. So we're able to go through how to differentiate between a frame and a stack, their behaviors with sizing options. We also talked about everything on the stack menu. So with the knowledge you have gotten with stack, let's now build our site to create a responsive design. Let me get rid of all these examples that we used right here and delete them. Let's now focus on our main design board. The first thing we're going to be doing here is to turn this desktop into a stack. You know the reason behind that, so go to your properties menu, choose a stack, or use a shortcut Ctrl Command Enter on your keyboard. How do you know if it's set to a stack or not? You simply go to your layers panel. You will see this slice, like a slice square that we have right here. This notifying us here that this desktop that will turn into a stack is in a vertical position. That's why you have this divided vertical line. And if it's in horizontal position, let's go to our layers panel, choose the horizontal. You see that the shape of the slice square shifted to a horizontal position. So that's how you can also know if an element is set to a stack. So I'll just set that back to vertical because I'm going to be placing our element in sections of vertical positions. The next thing I'll be doing here is to set a frame that will house all the elements in this design, more like a master frame. I'll just hit F on my keyboard, select a frame, go to my width, I'll set it to fill width, and the height, let's just go with something like 5,000. When we choose 5,000 for the height of the main stack, you see that the height of it is bigger than the main desktop itself. I've showed you this example before. All you have to do is just to select the desktop, head on to height and fit content. But in this case, we are using, I don't think the height of this stuff is more than 2,000. Okay, still within the range. So I'll just go to the frame of the desktop and change it to 2072. But remember, we have not turned this frame into a stack that will house the main element. So go on to your properties, change it to a stack, and I will name this main stack. It could have just been main section, but main stack is okay. But also remember again that we're not going to be making use of this fill color. So let's just go ahead by removing it. So it's time for us now to structure our design element into sections. So for this hero section, it's going to be a different section for it. For this other section, there's also going to be another section dedicated for that. So let's start with the hero section. Hit F on your keyboard again, and we're going to draw out a frame. You'll notice our frame went to the center of the desktop. Mind you, we are creating for that of the hero section, so it's supposed to be hanging out at the top right here. But if I should drag this, you guys know this example before, you will see it to remain in that same position. So what controls the primary frame is the main stack. So I'm going to be selecting the main stack, going down to the layout option, where is it? It's over here. So it's set to center. Let's change it to top. The next thing is to set this frame to a stack and also set the width to fill. So let's just do this fill and let's turn it into a layout, which is also a stack. Let's expand this a bit. The hero section shouldn't be more than this. And again, we are going to be removing the fill color. We will then rename this as hero section. So let's analyze something real quick. On this our main design, you see everything is being broken down into sections. The text here has its own frame that's attached to it. It's more like the text has its own grouped element in another frame, and the picture right here is also grouped in another frame. So this is what we're going to be doing here. We're going to create a section specifically for the text, another section for the images. So hit F on your keyboard to select a frame. I know you might be wondering why we are just drawing frames upon frames inside frames. You understand this better when we progress in this course, because we are trying to keep things in a more ordered way and maintaining responsiveness. So that's just the reason for all this documentation. So we are going to be selecting this frame, turn it into a layout. We are going to also set the width to fill, so to fill the width of the stack. So this is what we're going to be doing. Since it's two sections and it's filling just one section, so to divide it into two sections, we are just going to Ctrl D it. I meant copy. So we're going to copy it, and you see it's divided into two sections. The next thing is to remove the fill color of these frames. Then let's do a little documentation on the layers panel. The left hand side is a text. Let's just say text stack. And the other side here is for the image stack. So we are good to go. The first thing we are going to be applying here is our text. But one thing I have to really explain for you right now. You see this effect on this text? It's actually component effect I copied from Figma community. So I just copied it, pasted it on my design, and it's easily customizable. So one thing we're going to be doing here is to copy this to our own design. For the sake of this tutorial, you are the owner of this design that we are designing here. It's for you, so not for me. So we are going to be customizing it. So let's go with something like, hi there, I'm John, your UI UX designer. When you hit enter, everything nicely appears on the component. The next thing we're going to be doing is to cut it, Ctrl X, and paste it in the text stack. So let's just locate this and Ctrl V there. Don't also forget to check if this text component is in width fill. So it's going to be responsive whenever we scale the sides down. So from the width is set to fixed. We're going to change it to fill. The next thing here is a subtext. So I'm not going to be typing all this because it's going to be wasting time. I'll just copy it right from the content container in the properties menu. I'll Ctrl C it, copying it. Then I'll be selecting our text component or our text stack. Hit here on your keyboard, select a text and Ctrl V. You might not actually see it right now because if you look further, you will see it's actually a dark text, meaning you can't see it. So let me just change the color to something visible. So white. This is one of the essence of setting whatever you are doing to width fill, because right here it's set to fixed and everything is just outside the text container. So we are going to be going to the properties menu. So here set to fit, we are going to change it to fill width, so you can come back to the text container that we set it to. Let's reposition this text because it's actually a subtext and not a head text. So it's going to come down here. You're wondering how I was able to do that. It's just through my arrow keys up and down, up and down. So that's how I was able to reposition these two texts. But we have one problem. Let me just quickly identify it for you. You see this text here folded into 4 lines. I think 1, 2, 3, 4 lines. And this text here is filling the width, so it's maintaining this 2-line thing. But we want it to come to a line of like 4 or 5. 4 should be moderate, but you understand what I'm trying to say. So instead of it filling the total width of the frame, we can actually condition it in a way that is going to maintain a particular width filling that we may want. To achieve that, head on to your properties menu. You'll see min max here. So you're going to be clicking this, select max width. Then we're going to be changing this relative to fixed. I'll be selecting something like 350 and hit enter. You will see that it now folded into, I think, line of 1 2 3 4 lines. You don't always have to worry if things move out of place when you apply some certain things. It's to retrace your step by going back to the parent stack and changing the layout options. So let's check the distribution. The distribute is set to center, just how we want it, but the alignment is set to center, meaning I want it to be aligned to the left or to the starting of the left. So we're going to be selecting this, and everything will return back to the original position. The next thing here to complete this text section is our button. So you hit T on your keyboard. We are going to be going with something like contact me. Okay, that is okay. We'll be turning this into a stack, just in case if you don't see the layout option on your properties menu, just like now, because I can't find it. You can always use the shortcut, which is Ctrl Command Enter, and it's going to select a stack. So the layout panel is back on our canvas. The next thing we're going to be doing here is to turn the width of this our text to fit content, because we don't want to have a button that will fill the whole width of the text stack. It won't make sense that way. So let's add a fill to our text to create the background of the button. I'll be going over to gradient because I want it to be of 2 colors, which is just this simple black and white mixture. So this, I'm not going to touch anything because this is how you want it to be. Our text is not visible, so change the color of the text to a darker one. But our button doesn't look that fine, so we can just add padding to it. So let's just say on the right hand side 26 and on the left 26. Then we can simply add 13 to the bottom and 13 above. So our button is coming to life. We will just change the radius of this. I'll be going to a corner radius of 100, so everything is just going to round up. Let's change the position of our button. So select, this is it right here. Let's just change it to button. Then using our arrow key, we are just going to shift it to the down there. It's just that easy to do. We are done with our text section, and I feel everything is just too close to each other. Using this pink structure here, we can just widen it a bit, so everything is going to form this breathing space. I want the gap between this subtext and this header text here to be much closer compared to the spacing between the subtext and the button. So how can we control it in a way that we can only adjust the spacing between these two elements? Because if we try to increase the gap right here, everything is affecting the whole text spacing. To solve that, you select the subtext and select the upper text, and we'll be setting these two into another stack. So Ctrl Command Enter. You see everything is distorted again, so where do we go? It's a parent stack, and changing the resizing option back to the left. Then the gap of these two elements is just how I want it now, compared to the spacing system between the two texts and this button. We are done with this text section. Let's shift our focus to the image section. So press F on your keyboard again to bring out a frame. Then the width, I'll set it to fill width. The height, I'll set it to fill height. Then I'll change it into a stack right here. The next thing to do is to add an image. To do that, you go down to where you have your fill. Then over to the last option here is where you can add an image to it. So choose an image. In this case, I'll just choose one funny image I downloaded recently. This is it right here. So I can just open this. I'll be applying a corner radius to this to create a smooth end. So let's preview our site to check if all the stuff we have been adding is actually responsive. So you can do that in two ways. You can have a play button at the top here, and you can also access it through this play button also at the desktop heading. I'll be resizing this into Breakpoint to see if it's responsive. I kind of expected this kind of result though, because I know the reason why this text and everything is distorting like this, especially this image. But one thing I'm looking out for here is to see if our text is responsive. So it's actually responsive in a way, just that this image is the one distorting everything. We can always readjust this in another breakpoint, but the main aim why I came here is to check if our text is actually responsive. But there's another problem we are facing here. There's no breathing space on this design. So we're going to be selecting the main stack, head down to your padding. We'll be adding a padding of 40 pixels to the right hand side and 40 pixels to the left hand side. So the padding issue is solved if we should scale this down. Let me answer the reason why this image is kind of distorted. The reason why things were distorting was simply coming from one problem, which is coming from the breakpoint. Because if you look at this breakpoint, it's not well organized. The reason behind this is because we're using a larger screen to design for the desktop, and you don't expect it to maintain that same layout when you're talking about smaller breakpoints. So how do we solve this kind of issue? It's pretty easy to do. Since we have been using stack, we can just change the layout of the breakpoint. So hit the parent frame of the tablet version, go to your stack, and I'll be changing it to vertical. In this way, we have changed the layout from a horizontal layout to a vertical layout, because the horizontal layout cannot contain the full element without it distorting. So that's how we change it to a vertical layout, so you can accommodate all the elements without it squeezing. We can also do the same for the phone. Just select the hero section of the phone version, go down to your layout and change it to vertical. In this way, we have rearranged everything and it's now looking better. And when we preview this and we decide to scale it down into breakpoint, you see everything becomes responsive now without it taking that distorting part. So this is one way you can use stack to rearrange layout without even doing much on your canvas. Because I know you are thinking we're going to waste so much time rearranging things here and there, when we can just use stack and change all the layout or the direction from the properties menu. Let's move on into the next section, which is designing this hover text effect. This is a previewed version right here, where you have this infinite loop of text going on and on and on. So let's just create that. Hit F on your keyboard and we're going to be drawing out something small like this. I'll change the width to fill width, then also the color, I'll be changing the fill color to black. For us to create this hover text effect, we have to turn this frame to a component. Then we're going to rename this frame as hover effect or hover text. Let's just go with hover text. To turn this frame into a component, you simply right click and you see create component, or you can use the shortcut Ctrl-Alt-K on your keyboard. So I'll just be creating a component. Let's just go with this hover text effect as the name of the new component. You see, to lead you to another canvas, this is where all your components are going to be stored. So whatever component you are going to be designing on this design, it has its own specific component canvas. To go back to your home page or to go back to your main design, this is right here. Just click home and it will lead you back to your design. And to go back to the component page, you simply double click on the frame. So when you double click, it will lead you back to the component canvas. Next up, we are going to be bringing out all the text we want to use to create this hover effect. Let me show you what it looks like on the component canvas of the main design. So simply double click and this is what you'll be seeing. Don't be confused with all this, because in a matter of minutes, you'll be able to understand why all this is going this way. So let's go back to our main design. I just wanted to show you what it looks like on the component canvas of the hover text effect. So hit here on your keyboard and we'll be writing out something like design system. Okay, let's change the color to a white one. Then I'll be changing the, I think I used semi-bold. Yeah, semi-bold here, and a font of 37. So semi-bold and 37. Okay, I'll be copying this asterisk component here. Just Ctrl C and paste it on our design. Ctrl and V. Next up, I will select these two and turn them into a stack. Alt Ctrl Enter to select a stack. Let me just give a little spacing here. And if you should look, it's kind of cutting out on this asterisk side when we just increase the gap in between them. So to solve that, select your stack. We are going to be changing the width. Since we don't have access to fill width, let's just go with fit content and it's still going to work that same way. I'll be making a copy of this again. Then I'll be changing the design because I want to use about 6 different texts. To save time, I'm going to be fast on this. These are the texts we're going to be using to create that effect. We can even use like 3 texts and it's still going to give us that same effect. It's just that the texts are going to be repeating itself more frequently. Let's just change the layout. Let's just change this one to text 1. Change this to text 2, 3, text 4, and I think we have 2 more to go, text 5 and text 6. To create that text effect, we're simply going to use a component called ticker. To access that, you head on to insert at the top, go down to interaction or interactives, and you'll see ticker. We are simply just going to drag this to our own design. You Ctrl X to cut it and select your variant and Ctrl V to paste it. I'll simply realign it to the height of the frame and to the width of the frame. Let me just stretch this. You see these 3 dots on the end of the component. So holding down my left key on my trackpad, I will drag out one and connect it to one text. I'll simply do the same for other ones, just connect it. You just drag and connect, drag and connect. We have 2 more to go. Drag and connect. Then lastly, drag and connect. So when you're done, you will see something like this. This is what you are seeing on display, just I did mine in a scattered way. This text or this ticker component has its own component field on the properties menu where we can make little adjustments. So we can change the speed of how we want it to be. This is 6 item because this is 6 text we use here. We can change the direction of the flow, the alignment, the gap. Let me just space this out a little bit. So let's just preview this to see if that actually worked. You will notice it's giving this smooth vibe, but let me just reduce the speed a little bit down to something like 80. Let's preview it again because I don't want it to be that fast. So this is it, and this is how easy it is to create. And when you go back to your home page, everything is just there waiting for you. We can just also preview this and it's still going to give that hover text effect. On the tablet, everything is looking good. But on the phone version, the text is looking too big, and there's no way I can reduce the size of the text from the properties menu. And if I choose to reduce the size of the text to something like 20 and hit enter, going back to my phone breakpoint, you'll see it's okay for the phone breakpoint, but everything applied on all the breakpoints. Because if you take a look on the tablet, it applied on the tablet and it's applied on the desktop. So what's one way we can just selectively change the size of the text on the phone version without it affecting other breakpoints? Let me quickly show you how to go about that. Let's just change this back to the way it was before. On this our main design on the component panel on the component canvas, you will see that there are 2 frames here. One is for the desktop and one is for the mobile version. And if we should go back to the home page on this mobile version here, going to the properties menu, on the variant, moving down to the ticker component, you see we have the access to change it from a desktop to a phone version, and we can also switch it back to a desktop version. So in this case, since it's a tablet version, the desktop is still good for it. And moving down to the phone version, go down to the component and you will see it's set to phone. And if you should set it to back to desktop, you notice the text is bigger now, and when we change the variant from desktop to phone, it will move to the phone breakpoint that was on the component canvas. So how can we create these 2 frames here? Is through using variant. So to add a variant, you have this plus here. Let's just click it and it will bring out another frame. I'll be detaching the ticker component from this second variant. Let me just backspace to delete the ticker component. So the next thing I'll be doing is to copy this text again. I will just take my time to reduce all this text down to 20. I think on this place I used, let me just check the size of the text. I used 28 here with 28, same thing here, 28. So to cut time, I'll just select all the text and change them at once down to 28. The next thing we're going to be doing is to bring out our ticker component again, insert, interactive and ticker. So in this case, I'll just, same thing, drag it to your canvas, reduce the size and set the width. Same thing that we did here, we're going to be connecting the component to the text, but we cannot access those three dots that we're seeing here. I don't know why things is this way. Maybe it's a Figma error, but when I was designing mine, I just discovered that you can't connect the second variant to a text. The way I solved this was I connected everything outside the frame, and when I was done connecting it, I brought it back into the frame. So let me just drag this out, and you see the three dots is back. So I'll just be connecting this here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2 more to go, 5 and 6. Selecting the ticker, I'm just going to Ctrl X, select the variant and Ctrl and V, and you see that worked perfectly. I'll be changing the name of this second variant to phone and this first variant to desktop. We don't need to do any other thing. Just head back to your design, go down to the phone breakpoint, and you'll see this hover text component is here. So the variant, we have two variants, one is desktop and one is phone. So we're going to be going with that of phone, and you see selected the second variant for the phone version. So this is one way to solve that using variant. At first we use component, and components, they are reusable elements we can use in our design. The reason why the size of the text applied to all the breakpoint when we reduced it from the phone breakpoint was simply because of the component, because what you apply to one applies to all. To now define or to refine a particular component, we use variant. So that's how we're able to use variant to switch it from desktop to phone. Moving to the last section, we're going to select a frame that will house this content section. So set the width to fill width, then also you change it to a layout, which is also a stack. I will change this to somewhere around here and remove the fill column. I will then rename this as content section. Next up, we'll be starting with this text frame that we have here. But mind you, it's not really like an ordinary text that we can just hit T on our keyboard and write out the text. There's a text effect linked to this particular graphic design. This is the previewed version here, where you have this loop text popping up new text to the screen. We can also replicate that in minutes. So the first thing to start with is this our ordinary text. So let's press T on our keyboard, T, and write I specialize in. Ctrl X to cut it and Ctrl and V to paste it inside the design. I will select the content section, go to the layout option and change the distribute to start because I want the text to start from the top. So I'll align it to the top just right here. I will then give a gapping of 100 to the top and also set the gapping of 40 on the right hand side and 40 on the left hand side. Next thing we are going to be doing here is to change this into a stack. Alt Ctrl Enter to select a stack. I will then duplicate the text inside the Ctrl D to duplicate. Select the main stack that is housing the two texts and set them to start. So you can start from the left of where it started from. It sounded somehow sharp, but from the left. So the next thing we are going to do is to change this to graphic design. Since the focus is on this effect, we are going to change the opacity down up to 100, up to 100, not down to 100. To achieve this effect that you are seeing here, we have to change this text into a component. So Ctrl Alt K to create a component. We can rename this as hover effect and create component. So the thing we are going to be doing here is to change the variant into a stack because it's not really a stack. I have to make sure that that is set to a stack. Next up, I'll change the width of the variant to fit content. Same thing for the height, fit content. Next up, I'll be selecting the graphic design text and copy it as many times I want the text to change. So Ctrl D, I would like to copy like one more time, making it 3, because on my own main design, I didn't really use much. I just used like 2 extra text. So guys, you can use more than 2-3 types of text to create this effect, but I just stick to 2 to make it more simple. But just make sure that the text that is starting it is also the text that is ending it. Don't worry, I'll be explaining this better when we start automating this animation. So the next thing to do is to select the free text I copied from behind. I will change the type from relative to absolute. Make sure you activate the left pin and make sure it's set down to 0. So I'll activate the left pin and also activate the bottom pin. So 00 for both left and bottom pin. You cannot see other text now because the variant here, the overflow is set to hidden. So if you look at the properties menu, you see the overflow here is set to hidden. We are simply going to change that to visible so that we can be able to see our text. So to bring out other text, we are simply just going to select the three text from behind, use our arrow key to shift it down. You can now see the text. I'll be selecting the second text from the layers here, use my arrow key to bring it down, one more text to display. So I'll use my arrow key to bring the third text down to this place. So we're actually making progress in this effect. So if you're getting confused, don't worry, take a chill pill because you understand everything I'm doing right now. Next up, we're going to be customizing this text. So I'm selecting the second text, go down to the content where you have the text laid out here. We'll be clicking this plus to change it into a variable plain text. Then I'll be changing this because on the actual design, I only use two texts, which is UI UX design and branding. So we'll simply replicate that UI UX design. So it has changed there. We'll do the same for the second one. Go down to the content, change it into a variable plain text and logo design. Sorry, branding, right? Branding. So branding. So like I said before, we'll not be changing the last text because I want what is starting the text to be what is ending it. I'm still going to explain the reason why I'm doing it this way. Let's just rearrange this. Next up, I'll be adding another variant by clicking this little plus here to select another variant. So this is the thing that we are going to be doing here. We want the text to switch from graphic design to UI UX design. So to do that or to achieve that, selecting graphic design, we are going to change this into absolute, activate the left pin and the bottom pin, make sure it's down to 00. Then using the bottom pin, we are going to raise it up. So once it's out of the frame, you select the UI UX design text and set it from absolute to relative. When you do that, it jumps back to the second variant frame. Let's quickly realign this to the left and shift it up just like this. We are going to add a third variant until we are done with all the text. So selecting this, we are going to click this plus to add another variant. So to change from this UI UX design to branding, we simply change the UI UX design text to absolute. Make sure that the left pin is activated and the bottom pin is activated, and the left pin change it to 0 down to 0. So the thing we are going to be doing here is to select the UI UX design text, the graphic design text, and shift it out of the frame. Next up is to select the branding and change it to relative so it will jump back into the third variant. So using our arrow key, let's just quickly shift this graphic design text. So one more variant to go to exhaust this last text, which is its graphic design. So selecting the third variant, add another variant. Let's just shift this to somewhere around here. So to change it again from branding to graphic design, we are simply going to change branding to absolute. Make sure the left pin is activated and the bottom pin is activated. We'll select the branding, the UI UX design, and the graphic design, and shift it out of the frame, which gives room for the last text to enter. Select the graphic design and change it to relative, and it's going to jump back into the fourth variant. So this is how the flow is going to be. To change it from graphic design has to go up in the second variant for UI UX design to come in. So to change it from UI UX design, is supposed to go up in the third variant for branding to come in, and for it to change back into graphic design, this branding has to go up for graphic design to enter into the fourth variant. The next thing is to connect this variant together. So selecting the first variant, I'll click it to the second variant. I will change the interaction to appear, change the delay to around 0.6. Then I'll select the second variant, click it to the third variant, same appear, but I'll change the delay to around, I think, 1.1 second. I'll also do the same for branding. Select branding, change it to graphic design, choose appear, then 1.1 seconds. So for the last text, which is graphic design, I will link it back to graphic design, which is also starting it. So link it back to graphic design, appear. Then I'll be using the same delay of 0.6 that started the frame. So this is it here. So I said I was going to explain why we have to use graphic design to end it and graphic design to start it. So it's easy to continue the cycle animation if we use the same text for the start and for the end, because it's really hard for us to do a reverse animation, which means that we are going to be stepping down all this text. We have to step down graphic design back to the main frame, step this down into it. Is going to take a lot of time to achieve that. We just have to use a shortcut to use the graphic design that ended it and what started it. So the transition to take the turn again is going to be simple. Next up, we're going to be removing all the unwanted text we don't want here. So this variant 1, the most important ones that we need is the one in variant 1 frame, variant 2 frame, variant 3 and variant 4 frame. Any other one here is not really needed. So I'll be selecting all this text below it and change the opacity down to 0. Where's the opacity? It's right here. I'll change it down to 0. Also select this graphic design, and the graphic design and change the opacity down to 0. You might notice other variant is missing. All we have to do is just to select the text and bring back the opacity here. Select the variant 3 and bring back the opacity. Do the same thing for the last one and change the opacity to 1. So this is it right here. Let's quickly preview this if it's actually making sense on the main design. So head back to home. So this is it here. It's actually giving that effect, but you will notice some texts are not really going in the same manner. Some are going to the left while some are going to the right hand side. Let's quickly address that. So head back to your design, selecting the graphic design frame, you change the width to fit content and also change the height to fit content. So let's just see if that actually worked. So scrolling down to the place, you will see that everything is now looking so organized. So this is how we're able to create this text in no time. This is on our main design. So this is how we're able to create this design in less than 5 minutes. The next thing to do is to create this arcade section. It's pretty easy to do. Just F on your keyboard and draw out something like this. So it's actually too fat. The width is actually too big, so let's just reduce it to somewhere around here. So I'll be changing the fill color. Let's just use a color picker to pick the actual color from the cards. So something like this, we do round the corners of the frame to something like this and change it into a stack. So the next thing to do is to press F to introduce a frame inside it that will house the image. You change the width to fill width. There we go. Then you select the stack and change the distribution to the end so that it can start from the bottom of the frame. Next up is to add padding to this arcade to something like this. We'll do 23, 24, 25. Okay, 25 is okay to grow. So the next thing to do is to select our card here, the one inside the stack, and round the corners a bit. So something like this is okay. Selecting the frame inside, we are going to change this image. Choose an image from our gallery, and I'm simply going to select just one unique one. So let me go with this open to select an image. So copying this text here because we don't have much time again. So Ctrl and V, I just copied it from that card. So I'm going to place it into our design, set the width to fill width. Using the gap function, I'm going to space this out, the image and the text, to somewhere around here. But it seems like our card is kind of too big. We can also reduce this. Let's just go with something like 640 as a height. I'll also reduce the size of the image so it can accommodate everything. So something like this is good to roll. Before we add this card into our design, let's just make sure we lock the sizing option of this image so it's not going to distort whenever we place it into the design. So Ctrl X to cut and go to that frame we brought out recently, and Ctrl and V to paste it. So I'll be selecting the frame, change the height of it to fit content, also select the card and set it to fill. You see it's filling the whole width of the frame. To change that, we just simply have to Ctrl D to copy it Then to go back to the main size it was. Now the last one is the one that is above it. So to do that, I'll select second text, Ctrl D to copy it again. Then selecting the first and the second one, I'll group it into another stack, then set the direction to vertical. Since this card here at the top doesn't have an image accompanied with it, let's just go ahead to remove this one here. So select the card image and delete the image within it. So I'll select the card, change the height to fit content so you can fit the content and fill out the side that the image was before. By doing that, you can see that the first card here is not actually filling the height of the frame of it. So if you look at this one from the case study, you will see that this card, the second card here, is actually smaller than this. So we are going to reduce this. So let's just select the second card and reduce the height of it. So somewhere around here would do. So select the image here. Remember that we lock it, you unlock it, and we kind of reduce it just like this. Then you draw the text a little bit closer to it. Then let's increase the image just a little bit. So somewhere like this is good to roll. On the last frame here, there's an effect linked to it. Previewing it from the main design, you will see these hover flyers that is going on there. You should understand how to navigate that because I've actually showed you how to do that using this first one that we're doing. So to do that, you simply select the card and group it into a component, Ctrl Alt plus K to select a component. So what we're going to name this, let's just say hover flyers. Then hit create. I'll be moving this image because we are not going to making use of it. Once again, we are going to bring out that interactive effect, the ticker effect. So head on to your interactive and select the ticker and drag it to the card design. So let's quickly change the direction. It's supposed to be at the bottom here and expand this a little bit. You select the ticker, change the width to fill width. I'll be copying the flyers that are used here. So this, and last one this. So Ctrl and V to paste it. You already know how to link this. Just select the ticker, drag out one connected to this, drag out the second one, the third one, and I think one more to go. Okay, there's actually one more. So this is it, guys. We have created our effect. We don't really have to do much, but let's just check this variant. So hit the play button here. It's actually too fast though, because on my own actual design I really made it kind of slow. So let me just preview this here, scroll down. It's actually really slow here. You can also change that on ours. So head back to the component canvas, select the ticker. I'll be reducing it down to around 80. Let's just go with 80 or 75. So head back to the home page and let's preview this to see if it actually worked. So go down, and voila, this is it. It's very easy to do in minutes. So we are done with this section. Let's just rearrange this and drag it to the top. Simply select the content section and change the height to fit content so you can fit the content of the card. Also do the same for the main stack. Change the height to fit content so you can fit the content of the frame. So we are done with this. Let's just move over to optimizing this whole thing. So going down to our design here, the tablet version is looking so wreck. We can also select the card holder, go down to the direction and change it to vertical. So it's looking better in this way. Let's go ahead to fix that of the mobile. Simply select the card holder of the mobile version and change the direction to vertical. So things are not really actually going well here because we have some lapses at the top here. So to fix this, head back to the main design because whatever effects you add on the main design reflects on other breakpoints. So I think the height of it is not set to fit content. So that is why it's like that. So select the height, it's actually unfixed. So set it to fit content and head back to the design. It's actually looking better now, but we can also resize this. Unlock the aspect ratio, then you can also resize the image to somewhere around here. But if you look at this, the gapping between both sides is actually much for a mobile application. So I'll be selecting the frame that is holding this padding option. I will change it from 40 to around 18 pixels and 18 pixels to the left hand side. So this is good to roll. Our card now is looking much more better, but it seems like this one is having some issues. So heading back to the component, I'll set a variable for the gap. So click this plus here to select a variable, create variable, and let's just call this mobile gapping. On the properties menu, you will see this variable here where it says this mobile gapping that will set it to be on the component side. We can also reduce it so that the text can come back to somewhere around here. So let's just increase this a little bit. We are done optimizing everything here, just that it's remaining this text. So select the main stack housing the two texts and change the direction to vertical. Then we can also reduce the size of this. So select the I specialize in and change it down to 40. Then also I'll be reducing the size of this effect here, but we can't do this on this canvas. We have to set a variable for the size of the text. So head back to the component. I'm simply going to select everything just like this and hit enter on my keyboard so I can select all the individual text in the variant. I'll head down to where we have the size of the text. This is it here. I'll set a variable, create variable, and I'll also say maybe mobile font size. Head back to the size, the home page, and you will see on the variable just below it, you see mobile font here. I have the ability to now reduce the size down to 40. Then selecting the main stack that is housing the two texts, I'll select the alignment and change it to the left of the frame. So we're done designing, guys, and we just finished optimizing it. That didn't even take up to a minute. So let's preview this one more time to check out our work, because it has been a really hectic tutorial. So let's just scroll down. This is nice. The text is hovering, quite nice. Then we also have this smooth cards that is going on here. Let's also check the responsiveness of other breakpoints. So the moment you scale it down, everything is fully responsive. I love the way it's just so smooth on it. So let's just go back to the home page. We can actually add few effects to make it pop. I'll be starting with this first text that we have as the head text. Though it has an effect already, but I just want to apply an effect on top of that. So select the text, head to your properties menu, and you see effects. Click the plus. I'll be going with appear because I want the text to appear when we first preview the site. So selecting the effect, though it's on the trigger is set to on appear, I want it to fade in. Let's enter the effect. So I can raise the opacity so we can actually see what we are doing before we change it back to 0. So for the offset, I want it to come from the bottom of the frame. I'll be selecting the Y value and be going with something like 60. For the transition here, I'll be going with a delay of 1 second right here. For the physics, I want it to be really smooth when it's appearing on our screen. So I'll be increasing the damping to create that smooth entry. So I think this is all the setting we need to know. Let's just head back to our opacity and change it down to 0 because that's where it was before. So if we come back to our design, don't worry, everything is there. Let's preview this to see if that actually worked. So you see it kind of came from the down, came up to the screen. So that is what I was actually wanting to achieve. Next up, I'll be copying the effect that we use here so that we don't have to go over it again when we're applying it to this subtext and to the button. So to copy it, select the text, head down to the effect, right click on your keyboard and you see copy, just hit copy there. So select the second text, the subtext, go to the effect and right click again and you will see paste. So it's going to paste the exact effect we used on the first text. Just that we are going to change the delay because I don't want it to appear at the same time. So go down to the enter, to the spring, then the delay, I want it to be around, let's just say 1.2 or 1.3 seconds. So after the first second that the first text appeared, about 1.3 seconds after, the second text should also appear on the screen. To do that for this and also do the same for the button, head down to the effect, right click and paste your effect. I will also change the delay because I don't want it to appear at the same time. So go down to the spring, the transition, and change the delay from 1 second to around 1 point, let's just go with 1.5 because the subtest came in at 1.3. So by calculating it, let's just give like 2 seconds interval. So let's preview this to see if those effects are actually working. So by doing this is not really what I expected. I think there's a problem from somewhere because it's supposed to come from an opacity of 0 to 1 opacity. Let's just check that to see if the opacity on the effect is actually set to 0. So select the first text, head down to the effect. You will see that the opacity here is set to 1. I forgot to return it back to 0. So I'll do the same for this. Select the second text, change the opacity down to 0 and change the opacity of the button down to 0. So this is it. Let's preview it one more to see if that actually worked. Okay, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Let me reload this again. You see the first text came in, the second text came in, and the third text came in. So if we want to apply an effect to this our image here, we can also do that. So let's just select the image, head down to the effect, right click and paste effect. Let's change the opacity of this to 0 because I doubt, yep, it's set to 1. Let's just change it down to 0. So by previewing this, we have this beautiful interactive site. So you can add effect to your design without even writing a single line of code. Now this is the best part. You can actually publish what we have designed here into a live interactive site. So if I should hit publish at the top there, it will take a minute, less than a minute to load. Then it will load into a live site. So you can see here this project has been published to this link. So by selecting the link at the top, you will see that it will lead us into an actual live site. So by the time you're watching this tutorial and you want to go to this actual website, you can see it with this link at the top. But that doesn't mean I won't unpublish this because after this, I will unpublish the site just for some personal reasons. This button at the top here is where you can check the analysis of your live site. So by clicking it, you will see there's actually one unique visitor, which was me. And the total page I previewed was 3 pages. So this is how powerful Framer is. But let's just go ahead to unpublish this site. So head back to this place and you will see unpublish, and we just hit that button there.
There you go guys, you just created your first live website using Framer starting from a blank canvas. The most fascinating thing about this tutorial, about this two-code Framer, is that we didn't even write a single line of code, which makes it more fun to use. So you can just create your website and publish it at a go. If you love this video, smash that like button, comment down below, and don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials like this. Let me know in the comment section what you want to see next on this channel. Until then, keep designing and see you later.